Good morning. Welcome to Community Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Reverend Dr. Aija Duelm, and I am the minister here at this congregation. My pronouns are she, her. And I am glad to see all of your faces here joining us in person, and I'm glad to see people also joining us online. We did look at that there are people already visiting with us online currently, so I'm not making it up. I had a conversation about that. But as Unitarian Universalists, we proclaim a liberal faith. We welcome all in our doors. We welcome all who are returning here for a number of years, more than 30, more than 40. And you're coming here, who are coming here to be in the community with others, to engage the work that we do. And we welcome those who are newer to this congregation. Maybe some of you here are for the first time. We're glad you're here, and I'm hoping that you will find something that speaks to your heart today, and maybe for more than one day, and you will want to come back. We, here in this community, what we strive to do is to affirm the dignity of every human being. We strive to work for justice, and we honor the wisdom that is found in all faith traditions and all religions. Each one of us joins our mission in different ways with the skills and gifts that you all have. And we all together seek to nourish spirits, work for justice, and transform lives. Together, we accomplish a lot more than we could alone. And that's what we do here together. Whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey, we're glad you are here today with us. Our call to worship comes from Erica Hewitt's words. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we will never be done with the work. The work of telling the truth about the oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine in each other, no matter what, the work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we are not alone in this work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free. Because none of us is truly free until we all are free. Whoever you are and whatever gifts you bring, you are welcome to join our journey together.
Okay, I'll introduce myself. I'm Jen Mason. Hello. I'm the worship associate and part of a team that's come together to bring this service to you today, wherever you may be. Today's reading is from Acts 2, 1 through 18 and 43. When the day of the Pentecost had come, they, the apostles, were all together in one place. And suddenly a sound came from heaven like the rush of a mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared to them tongues as like fire, distributed and resting on each one of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages as the Spirit gave them ability. Now there were dwelling in Jerusalem Jews, devout men, note it's not listed women, from every nation under heaven. And at this sound, the multitude came together, and they were bewildered, because each one of them speaking, they heard in his own language. And they were amazed and wondered, saying, "Are not all these who are speaking Galileans? And how is it that we hear, each of us in his own native language?" Now, one pause from the reading. I cannot pronounce the next paragraph. I can, but I cannot. So, there it is. Okay? So you just read that out loud to yourself. Anybody who wants to volunteer. We hear them telling in our own tongues the mighty works of God. And all were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, "What does this mean?" But others, mocking, said, "They are filled with new wine." But Peter, standing with the 11, lifted his voice and addressed them. "Men of Judea and all who dwell in Jerusalem, let this be known to you, and give ear to my words. For these men are not drunk, as you suppose, since it's only the 3rd hour of the day. But this is what was spoken by the prophet Joel. And in the last days it shall be, God declares, that I will pour out my spirit upon all flesh, and your sons and your daughters shall prophesy, and your young men shall see visions, and your old men shall have dreams of dreams, and even upon my slaves I will pour out my spirit, and they shall prophesy." Peter continued to speak of how the prophecy has been fulfilled and called on the apostles to follow their mission. Awe came upon everyone because many wonders and signs were being done by the apostles.
As I mentioned, I'm not really a bird person. Some of you here know a lot more about birds than I do. I know some names of the birds, and I know a few of their songs, but not a lot of them. But we do have a bird feeder in our backyard. And we put out a variety of foods so that we get to see different birds stop by and eat once in a while. So we see cardinals, chickadees, sparrows, finches, blue jays, woodpeckers, and of course doves who struggle to land properly on the feeder. They end up on the top of it and then are not getting the food that they need. And we had to adjust the feeder so that the squirrels would not end up eating all the bird food. So instead we have a separate tray for squirrels. And they don't seem to be bothered by birds, and birds don't seem to be bothered by the squirrels. They're just all there together eating, unless a hawk shows up. So sometimes it's quite a party in our backyard. We have had wrens that have made home in one of the birdhouses in our backyard, and then we have watched the little ones learning to fly out of the house. On occasion, mockingbirds would visit the yard, but they look for bugs and worms. They're not interested in the seeds as much. I also have seen an owl fly right by me up in the sky. And as you know, you cannot hear an owl fly. It kind of surprised me one day. We have a park nearby, and it came out of the woods just close by, flying. And sometimes owls would sit on the large tree that is right in front of the house and decide to sing their song, and you know that happens in the middle of the night, not when you really want to be hearing that song. But the birds have their lives, they have their journeys, they have their ways of doing things. And the story that we heard earlier during the story time that comes from Sufi tradition adds a little bit of a spin to the lives of the birds, kind of giving them more of a human characteristics and ways of communicating to one another. So this story is a summary, as I mentioned, from a much larger, longer story, and it was written in the 12th century, quite some time ago, by a Sufi poet or writer, Attar. I also did not grow up with this tradition, so I borrowed my insights, or I took my insights about this story from Reverend Barbara Merritt. And I'm grateful for her contribution to help me deeper understand what happened and why this story is so meaningful. She had shared this some time ago, like 20 years ago, in a Berry Street essay, and some of you may have read it or heard it. Well, according to Reverend Merritt, Attar was kind of a Unitarian Universalist among the fundamentalist Muslim community. There were other mystics in this Sufi tradition that were looked upon kind of like Christian fundamentalists look at us, the Unitarian Universalists, somewhat on the edge of all things. Attar had been called an infidel and a universalist for his inclusive teachings that were often rejected by other Muslim teachers. And in this story, he grapples with the diversity of human experience and the unique and complex realities that mark our spiritual journeys. And on this journey, all are welcome. All are included. And it really means all, the passionate and the fearful, the skeptics and the insightful, the activists and unfaithful. While the journey requires to leave behind the timidity and their lack of trust, they are invited to come as they are. They don't need to change anything about themselves. But just like another assembly of liberal religious community, the birds have their excuses. In the story we hear, if you read it deeper, that there's a nightingale that does not want to abandon her beautiful roses. And then the duck who announces she is holy enough. She does not need anything more. And then the peacock contends that the good work he's doing currently is sufficient. He's all good as well. And hawk proclaims that hawk's already exercising enough power and influence, so also kind of good enough. And just like liberal religious people anywhere and everywhere, in every age and every culture, the birds, even though they said they wanted to find this and they were ready to move towards the truth, they all had questions. They had doubts. They were apprehensive and fearful that they might not be properly equipped. They were more than willing to express their doubts and misgivings to the other birds. So one bird wanted to know exactly what lies ahead, step by step, what will be the next thing, even before they get on the road and start packing their suitcases. Another bird is convinced that he doesn't have strength or courage for this daunting pilgrimage. They were afraid of death. Another bird was lost in self-pity. But the birds altogether, they were not lacking in their self-awareness. Some just truthfully admitted that they're just too lazy and easily distracted to take on this kind of journey. It's quite an assembled congregation. They want to move and go the distance, but they also want to be on the familiar ground. Does anything like this sound familiar to you? Yeah. The story is a classical Persian allegory about the soul's journey toward finding union with God, but Attar never uses the word God in there. He describes the purpose of human existence as finding that dwelling place in one's own heart, the place of wholeness eternity, and love. And the purpose of the journey is to experience it. You have to go on this journey on the wings of love, because only love gives courage to stay on a difficult journey. Only love has the power to release one from self-centeredness. And for a tar, that kind of love is passionate and it is scandalous. It is like love between royalty and a slave, something that was not acceptable in those days and time. It's like love between people of very different faiths, also unthinkable at that time. But this kind of love is what helped the birds take care of each other on this journey, using whatever gifts and strength they had. And at the end of the journey, the end is very happy. They do encounter 1,000 suns and stars and moons, and they grow back their feathers. And an important detail for the birds, they also discover the truth that the place of genuine refuge was in their own hearts, minds, and souls. They were the leaders. And Attar's last words to his readers are, I have described the way, now you must act. This story may describe a spiritual journey that might be similar to yours. It talks about an enormous effort that is required for this journey. And it is what the demands of ministry can be. The ministry requires us to have strong hearts, to go through terrible experiences, whether it's about doing any public speaking from the pulpit, or being with someone at their bedside in the hospital, or doing the tasks for which you're not fully equipped yet, feeling inadequate to address a tragedy or a conflict or any other limitations that we experience. And still, we must act. On this Sunday, we will elect our leaders for the next year, and we will give them charge to make decisions for our church, to do the business of the church, to manage our resources, and to make sure that we stick to our mission and vision. And this story is to remind us that we all are leaders, and we do this work together. It is necessary that we are part of it, together as a team, as a congregation. So as we begin this new term for the elected leaders with whom we will share the ministry together, I also chose a reading for you from the Christian tradition, because today is a Pentecost Sunday. And it is a Sunday that Christian community celebrates as the beginning of the early church, when its leaders received the Spirit that empowered them to go out and work for the mission. It's probably unusual to read Christian scripture on this day, but I decided to take the risk and do it anyways. And so this story is when the Spirit comes and empowers all the leaders to speak different tongues, and then they hear all these, languages that, I don't know how many of you could read that, just curious. People were amazed and surprised and in awe that they could understand. How many here speak more than one language? Yes, it makes a difference, right? When you can understand another person. Anyone here speaks more than two? Yes. See? Wonderful. More than three? See? We still see. And you can understand so many different people when you are able to communicate, right? It's just impressive, and we're all at awe to see how many people can speak different languages. And that's what happened with these apostles. At the time after Jesus already had died, they were afraid, and then when the Spirit came, they suddenly were able to speak and communicate and open up, and they got bold. And that is what I'm hoping we can do here today, that we go from here encouraged and bold to follow the Spirit of ours that we call love. Love that connects us, love that keeps us going when journey gets tough, love that helps us to take care of one another and make very difficult decisions, love that sustains us and nurtures us. May this Spirit guide us, hold us, and direct us on this journey so we can go together boldly, empowered by the support of one another, and work together towards being a dynamic and nurturing religious community that celebrates our human diversity, supports lifelong spiritual growth, and acts for compassion and justice in the larger community. It is our time to act. We got to do what the Spirit says do.